So this is recording, Windows is booting, so let's just deal with this screen for a little bit. All right, so think of environment variables as being global variables available to the entire operating system. All right, so Windows, for example, as well as Mac, as well as Linux, they utilize some of these variables to keep track of certain things. All right, and one of these environment variables, the path variable, is used to keep track of the various places that should be searched when the user types something at the command line. Okay, so it's a list of semicolon separated directories to search in a particular order. All right, so now there's a couple of things to keep in mind. If you look at the path variable, one of the things that will typically be in your path is just the period. So you might have period, semicolon, C colon, backslash, blah, 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 blah. Do you know what the period directory is? On Windows, if you have a directory just called period, I can show you on the Mac side here too. If I type in ls, you see we have a directory down here called period and another directory called ... two periods. So if I type in cd space ... where do I go? Up one level. So the ... directory says go to one level above where I am now. That's where that guy says. So I'm in a new directory now. What's the ... directory? It's the current directory. So if I do cd space ... it takes me nowhere. Actually, cd space ... in this case took me back to the home directory. It's a shortcut thing. But we see we are in the same directory. If I do ls-a, we have the same stuff that's in there. All right, so dot means current directory, ... means the directory right above. The dot one's the kind of important one for us right here. You've maybe seen me do something before where I will do something like / Python or something like that, / the name of something. This says, look in the current directory and run some command. / says, run the command from the current directory. Okay, so that tells you a little bit about how directory structures work. Same thing exists in Windows. All right, so this is current directory. All right, so when we talk about this path environment variable, this guy is specifically creating a bunch of places for it to check when you type in a command. So for instance, for those of you who were working on your homework and you would install Python and Python didn't work, by Python didn't work, what I mean is you typed in the word Python, pressed enter, and it said, I've never heard of this. And you said, well, I just spent 20 minutes installing it. Why haven't you heard of it? Okay, it's because the place where Python was installed had not been added to your path variable. Therefore, when you type in Python and it searched through all those places that's in your path variable, it didn't find it in there. So your option was to give it the full path to where Python was installed, C colon / yada, 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 / whatever, python.exe, or go and add that directory to your path so that you can find Python in there. All right, so here's my Windows thing. I'll go back to my environment variables. Edit system and environment variables. I'll go to my environment variable. Notice here we have something called path. I'm just going to hit edit on this guy. So right now it searches in my Windows apps directory. That's the only thing that's currently in my path. So if I go out to the command line and I type anything in here, the only thing it's going to find is stuff that's inside of Windows apps, whatever that is. App data, local, Microsoft, Windows apps. Yeah, it might be a hidden directory. But whatever. That's where it's going to search right now. Doesn't matter. That's not where we're installing Python. But if I go in and type Python here, it says it's not recognized as an internal or external command. How many of you saw that when you're working on your homework at some point? Several of you, right? Okay, so the idea here is that when I install Python, I need to make sure it gets into my path. All right, so let's go and install Python. So we'll go to python.org. I'll go to downloads. I'm going to get Python 3 point whatever, 3.8. And we'll go ahead and launch this guy. All right. And so you can just do install now. This includes pip documentation. Now down here, see how it has a little thing that says add Python 3.8 to path? Now, if you missed it, that's not the end of the world, because you can still do it manually. But life would have been a lot easier had we clicked this, because then it will add it to your path, and we'll see the what happens with that here in a second. So I'll just click that, and I'll say install now. This is installing the general version of Python, so it's going to go do its thing. Okay, so setup was successful. Special thanks to blah, blah, blah. Disable path length limit. Changes your machine configuration to allow programs, including Python, to bypass the 260 character max path limitation. I'm thinking we should do that. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to say yes, because Windows has a length limit on the size of the things you can have in path. Now we can have more things in our path. All right, so setup was successful. Now I'm going to go back out here to DOS. Now it's possible when I type in Python right now, it's going to still say it doesn't know about it. Okay? Now if I close this, and then I reopen up this, and I type in Python, now it knows about it. Okay? But why does it know about it? It knows about it because if I go to Edit Environment Variables, and I'm actually going to go back into it so it reads it again. I'll go to edit. Notice a new thing is now put in here. A couple new things, actually. We have this guy right here, which I can't actually read the whole thing, but yeah, so it's a Python scripts folder. And so this is programs, Python 38-32 / scripts. And then here's another folder called Python 38-32. All right, so these are two folders that are now in my path. Make sense? Okay. So at that point, now that those things have been added to my path used to just have one thing in it, this guy down here. Now two brand new things were added to it. Make sense? Now, if you ever need to put something into your path, you can always go in here and say new. Go and browse to where it is. Find the directory you want to put your stuff. You want it to search. And now when you type stuff out the command line, after you restart the command line, it'll go and look in those places. That makes some sense? That's how the path environment variable works. That's how it's worked for the last 30 years. Okay, so this isn't a new idea, but Why do you think most of you hadn't run into this before? What's the reason why we're not familiar with the path environment variable? On Windows, how often do you run stuff from the command line anymore? Pretty rare, right? Okay, so typically when we open applications, what do? You double click on the icon, poof, it's open. I promise you, it got added to the path somewhere because that icon took it. Actually, chances are the icon actually probably gave it the full path to where it needed to open it. But regardless, you only need that path variable if you're typing stuff in here from the command line. What's the clear command in Windows?
CLC?
Is it clear screen? Yeah, CLS. There we go. All right, so now you have Python working. Okay. Now there were several things that after you had Python working, you needed to get installed. All right. So we have this package manager from pip called pip that allows us to install some stuff. So we can install pandas, right? And you can install Seaborn, and you can install matplotlib. And I actually was doing this, so I think I gave you the specific wheels that would allow you to install this in the latest, greatest version of Python. So I put that up on Slack, right?
Ew.
Oh, yeah. You want to hear this story real quick? So you see this line just right of center?
Yeah.
That's after I removed it. So I was cleaning off a tray on the 3D printer, trying to get some filament off. And I should have used the spatula thing, but instead the filament just went right under my nail all the way and just bottomed out in the nail bed. Yeah. So it was stuck in there. And I didn't react at all. And Dr. Wall and Blade were in the room, and I went over to them. I'm like, 6 inches from Dr. Wall, and I just pulled it out super slow.
Oh, gross.
So he's still.
Inside yet?
Huh? No, this is afterwards. You're seeing the post-traumatic path.
That's disgusting.
I know. I agree. It was totally awesome.
Go back then,
Huh?
it's gonna go back well. Because it all came out even. That won't be
Well, I mean, my nail's fine.
Oh,
This is all under the nail. This went between my nail and the skin beneath it.
I thought it ripped your nail.
No, my nail's undamaged. This was very surgical.
Technically, it is damaged because no part of it underneath is not attached to the skin.
Nah, it's not an important. It's not an important part. I'm not using that one part of the nail very often.
Wait, so your entire nail fell off?
Yeah, from no wheel.
Remember that time you got the concussion in hockey and I made fun of you? That was awesome. He was texting me. I wasn't making fun of him, but he texted me. He said, I got hit pretty hard in hockey today. So I might be a little off. This was a couple years ago?
Yeah.
A year ago? Yeah. So I might be a little off for a week. He said, okay, but if something crazy happens, I want pictures. What class is this? 548. All right, so I put some stuff in here, right? I gave you some these wheel things to work with. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to download these guys. And it's possible you could have done this without these. I'm not certain because I was debugging Ani's machine, so it was unclear to me what had transpired with that machine leading up to this point. So we can try to just install these guys directly if we want and just see what kind of errors we might get. So if I go back to the Windows thing here, what's it over here? I can I make this any larger? Oop. So I'll go to properties, font. All right. What's that guy there for? All right, so I'm going to do pip install pandas.
Oh, give me a break.
So that installs pandas on the, and notice it's also installing NumPy as part of this. So that's part of the packages that pandas is reliant on to make it work.
So, if I just install the pandas and if I try to run from
Anaconda?
no, what's that?
Adam.
Oh, Adam. Adam's just a text editor. We'll put Adam on here. I'm gonna effectively try to recreate your experience.
But there's a script that you can download on Atom, and then you can run Python from there.
Okay.
And I was trying to do that, but then.
Yeah, I guess I haven't done that. I almost always do it from the command line. I think that would probably benefit you, but I'm sure there is a script. So here, I'm just going to take all the little, turns that I would have taken if I was doing this. So this is telling me my pip is a little bit out of date. So I'll just install the updated version of pip. We'll see if we regret it later. This is just saying there was a slightly new version of the Python package manager since the version of Python that we just installed was in. Okay, so now I have the newest version of pip. I've now installed pandas and I've installed NumPy. What else are we going to need for our homework? We're going to need, so NumPy's in. Now I need matplotlib.
Yes, that one that I can't install for now.
All right, so matplotlib is the bad one. We'll give it a shot and see what happens. And this is the one that gives us the error about needing the C# or C++ thing, right?
Yes.
So I predict we're going to get that because this is like a fresh version of Windows.
Yeah.
All right. So we have our fresh version of Windows thing here, and it screams at us, and it says you can get this from.
So yeah, then after that has another error.
Okay, well, we'll burn that bridge when we get to it.
Then after that has another.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. All right. So I just wanted to go through your identical experience so you could see it rather than you just seeing me do it on the Mac. Sound good? All right, so let's see. Where am I going here? I'm going to, isn't there like an other, here, all downloads. All downloads. Here's my build tools, other tools and frameworks. Tools for build tools for Visual Studio. Okay, let's download that guy. And then I think I put in there you specifically need to make sure you go in and select the C++ build tools because they're not part of the default dealy flippy thingamajig. All right. I will continue. Okay, so now I'm going to click this thing that says C++ build tools, that little box right there. It already selected the 4 things I'm going to need. I'm going to hit install, and it's going to do some stuff here. Let's see if it gives me an idea how long this is going to take. Okay, so we'll let that cook for a few minutes while we go and look at some other stuff, right? All right, so I'm going to flip back over here. And I'll go into the homework. and see what I asked you to do. Actually, what we should do here is just stay on the Windows side, right? Actually, can I? Whatever. We'll just do it. What? Okay. And this is us. And let's see what the homework was. I gave you some serial data set, right? Okay, well then we had so here's Serial CSV. So I went ahead and downloaded that, and we'll put that somewhere we'll need it here in a few minutes. Okay, so this assignment is worth 4 assignments, blah, blah, blah. Let's see, given the attached data set and knowledge that the separator is actually a semicolon, so I actually gave you the line of code you'll need to read it in with pandas. Do this stuff. Now, did most of you use Atom for your text editor? So is that what you're recommending I use? All right, so that's atom.io. So I'll go ahead and download that guy. See how my install's doing. Oh man, we're cooking. Look at that. All right. While that's going, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to do this in downloads. That's where my Serial CSV is. So here I'm going to move Serial CSV. I'll put it into Atom is not currently the default handler. Yes, go ahead and open all that stuff with it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll put into my maybe my documents folder. I'll create a new folder in here called CSC548. I'll go into that folder and we'll go ahead and paste my serial CSV file in there. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and start creating a file for this guy that we'll use here in a few minutes. I'll say yes, you can send my data. So I'm going to create a new file and we'll go ahead and save this guy, and I'm going to save it into documents 548, and we'll call this serial dot, well, let's call it homework1.py for Python. Okay, so we have that, and then is this guy still cooking? Looks like we are good there. Okay. Now, we'll go back in here. We'll try doing this again. I don't remember if we have to reboot to get the C# or the C++ build tools available. Guess we'll find out here in a second. All right, so it's still complaining about the build tools. So I'm gonna do this. Who's that guy? Oh, that's the installer. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to restart Windows.
Give them right there.
That way the build tools become available to me because it was still complaining I was missing the build tools. Yeah, this is what I was looking for. Native Tools Command Prompt for Visual Studio. This guy right here. So that gives me the tools available to me. Now if I do pip install matplotlib, yeah, so this is the other area you were talking about, the F2 build.h thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now that guy is related to, actually, can I get to, that's where I had to give you the wheel thing, right? How can I not get to the, oh, include. All right, so I'm going to take the SIPI and the matplotlib. Actually, I'm just going to take all three of those guys, just in case I'll need them, and I'm going to put them into the local downloads folder here on Windows. And we're going to do CD. I'll move into the directory where my downloads are. That's right here, and there's my wheel file, so I'll do pip install matplotlib wheel. Oh, I'm on 64-bit. Give me a moment. Actually, let me try to install SciPy first. Because I happen to install the 64-bit version of Python instead of the 32, which typically shouldn't be a problem, but sometimes packages are only made for the 32-bit version. But that'll be easy enough to fix if we have to go down that path. Okay, so let me go in here and say add remove programs. I'm going to go and find Python. Oh, hold on, I have a 32-bit version of Python 3.8. So let's uninstall the 64-bit version of Python. That way we just have the 32-bit version. Because all the packages should be supported by the 32-bit version. Okay, so I'm actually going to here's Python 3.8. All right, that is pip from that. I'm just trying the normal matplotlib again before I go back and use the wheel. Okay, same problem with that. Alright, so I'll say pip install matplotlib from the wheel. I think it's not supported by this platform. Isn't that the... Am I on a different version of Windows than Ani was on? Should have 64-bit version. Alright, let's go get a version of... I need a different wheel apparently. Alright, here's the wheels thing that I was getting from that. .1.1. What is the error message? It really seems like that red font is a very poor
So hard to use.
font color for them to choose for this, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's just a really bad idea. Alright. F2, FT2 font extension. Is that where we crashed out? FT2 build.h. Okay, let me try this. Run this as administrator. Blow up the font while it's possibly crashing. Let's try from that wheel again. Okay, yeah, it was in the 64-bit version of... Alright, so Matplotlib is installed now from the wheel that I actually gave you. I was in the 64-bit version of the C++ dealy. So now I should be able to do pip install SciPy from that wheel. And I think we already have NumPy installed. So we didn't actually need NumPy from the, but now I should be able to install Seaborn. Is it with an E or just an N? All right, so that's installed now too. Okay, so I think that is all the stuff that needed to be installed. So a couple of contentious things there. I think we kind of saw there with matplotlib that there's got to be a 64-bit version of it, but there are a couple of things with Python that there are packages that were built for a 32-bit version of Python, and they didn't build it for the 64-bit version of Python. So when you go to install it with pip, you can't find the right libraries it's looking for. It's possible there's a workaround for it, but best chance of success I have found with Python using brand new, just came out yesterday packages is with 32-bit versions of Python. So that's why, of course, I installed a 64-bit version of Python during class today. So just to keep things, but it installed both the 64-bit version of 3.7 and then a 32-bit version of 3.8. So I kept my 32-bit version of 3.8. So now I should have everything in there, I believe. So let's run a couple of sample things and make sure it gives me what we're supposed to get. So I'll go to Zybooks. Actually, doesn't seem very secure at all. I typed in the wrong password on Zybooks, and it yelled at me saying that passwords must be 8 characters long or 6 characters long or something like that. So it gave me like a baseline for how to crack the password. It's like, look, you gave me the wrong password anyways, but just so you know, the password's at least 6 characters long. So happy hacking. Yeah, I know, it seems a little sketch. What are we doing on time here? All right. Okay, so I'm just going to get to some sample code that we can mess with here for a second, and then we'll start. Actually, I need to go to the Python part of this, right? Python for data visualization. I don't know if I have these default data sets or not. I guess we'll find out. So I'll go into Atom.
Only if it's reading in an unemployment CSV and you don't have it.
Matplotlib comes with some sample data sets. But one of the things I had looked at is certain versions of it do not come with the data sets, and I don't know if the wheel is the one that does come with it or doesn't, or the one that you get generically from pip. So we'll find out any moment. All right, so this is in my homework 1Py dealy flippy. So I will go to my documents folder. 548. So there's my serial CSV, which we'll use here in a few minutes, but we'll go ahead and try our homework1.py and run that guy, and we'll see if he seems to know about the data set. I think he does. Nope, he doesn't. All right, so we can definitely do the Titanic data from Seaborn. That's that.
When I was doing research online, like everywhere used the Titanic.
Because it's built into Seaborn. Yeah, it's makes your life easier.
What's the deal? Why is it so popular?
Well, actually, we don't even need to do that. Let's just go to Yeah, that's the reason. It's an interesting data set just from the historical significance, and it's included in Seaborn, so they can use examples that have that built in. Okay, so the name of my thing is called Serial CSV, but I also gave you in the homework, right? I gave you the exact line to type in because even though it's a comma-separated values file, it's actually separated by semicolons,
Yes.
which makes perfect sense.
You want me to Slack it to you? Or you can actually go to Blackboard?
I'll go to Blackboard anyways because I'm gonna need it to look at the stuff, and I don't have Slack installed on the Windows side yet. Yeah, we're dealing with a very I just installed this for this. Wanted to make sure I had the same experience that all of you went through. Okay. There's this guy. There's this guy. And here we go. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of, actually, I'll leave, I'm just going to comment these out for right now. Okay, so this should read in my data frame. And the first thing I say to do was the various pieces of information this document is storing. Be detailed, tell me the name of each label. All right, so there's various ways. I think you could actually, with Python, just print out the actual data frame. So I could say print df, and let's see what that guy ends up giving me. Yeah, so we have a name, a manufacturer, type, calories, protein, blah, 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 blah. So that's not really going to give us exactly what we want because it's cutting out a bunch of stuff. So I think I go back in here and I can say dot columns. Go back out here. And there's my columns, right? So we're keeping track of name, manufacturer, type, calories, protein, fat, sodium, fiber, carbohydrates, sugars, potassium, vitamins, I guess that's shelf life, weight, cups, and rating.
Shelf is actually on what shelf?
Oh, on what shelf it is? Interesting. Okay, so those are our labels that are being stored. Let's see, how many cereals are compared? I think we can get that from shape, right? So if I go back in here, is that a... Actually, I think if I just print out df here, I think it actually does tell me the number of 78 rows. So there's 78 cereals being compared.
Otherwise, like size would give that.
Yeah, I think size gives me the 78, shape gives me the 78 by 16. Or just printing it out just gives me kind of a visual dump of what the frame looks like. Okay. So that's 1 and 2, right? So far, so good. All right, 3, display an appropriate visualization of the highest 7 rated cereals. Okay, so now we have to start thinking about how do you get a certain number of things and sort by certain things. So we can get, let's go back into this guy.
So you said you did df.columns for the first one,
Yeah, and that'll give you the list of all the columns.
and then for the second one you did df.shape. What was it?
Well, I actually just printed out df, and it gave me all the information I needed. But if you say df dot, I think shape's a function like that. I think it'll give you, if it's not a function, it's...
I think it was just.
Yeah, it's just dot shape, so it's a field.
I was wrong. Size does not give it. It gives you the total amount of cells.
Yeah, there's a 78 by 16. So if you just want that information, shape says here's 78 rows by 16 columns. If you print out the entire frame, it'll say this is some sample data that's in there. And at the very end, it shows you we got 78 rows by 16 columns. So really, this is kind of more understandable. But really, I mean, you didn't have to write code for this one. Your answer was 78. There's 78 rows.
So I said 77, but I only said 77 because the first row was like
The headers?
Well, it was the string categorical.
Oh, yeah,
all
that's
that.
fair.
Okay.
That's fine. That's accurate.
And I explained why too. But
Okay, so let's go back into here. Actually, let me. I can do this in my iCloud, can I? Oh, actually, I can. It'll be just easier for me to jump here. All right, so I have a bunch of stuff in. All right, so here's what a data frame is in the our slides. So data frame, we can get the axes. This is the index and the column labels. So if that's helpful to me, I can just get axes. Columns just gives me the column labels. Data types will tell me what types each thing is. Index gives me the names of the things. So in our case here, it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 77, 78, whatever. Shape gives me an ordered pair that tells me the number of rows and the number of columns. Size gives me the number of values in the data frame. So when I say number of values in the data frame, what does size actually give me? It gives me the number of rows times the number of columns. The total number of datums that are in there. And then values, this will give me the actual individual values that are in there, which is going to be a lot. Okay, so we have a couple of things that we can do here. So we have a head and a tail, so this gives me either the first or the last 5 rows in a data frame. We have a min and a max value given a numeric column. We have mean and median values. We can just take a sample row, just grab anything. We can get standard deviation stuff. So now we have this loc and iloc. So we want to get 7 items, right? So head and tail gives me exactly 5. Not going to quite cut it. I need 7.
You can specify there.
With
You can head 7.
oh, I can say head 7. Okay. Local let me do the same thing. So he's saying that I can go in here and I'm not in Windows. Now I'm in Windows. So I can say df.head7 like that.
Yeah, you can.
And that gives me the first 7 things that are in there. And these guys are, it looks like alphabetical order, right? Okay, so I've asked you to give me what? I've asked you to give me
7 ratings.
top 7 based on rating. Okay, so now we need to have a way of sorting on rating. How do we sort on rating? Pandas has the ability to sort data frames, right? Okay, so we go to Pandas documentation. Data frame, sort on values. And we could sort by something. All right, so we're going to do something like this where we're going to sort by our rating. Is that the name of the column?
Yeah, we'd actually want the sort descending though.
Well, we'll see. But you're probably right. Let's just go one tiny step at a time. So we'll say ratings is equal to, Mac shortcuts.
Keep by the key.
Sort values, and this guy is called, is it rating or ratings?
Rating.
rating like that. All right, and then we can say, oh, so here, let me just change this to rating as well, just so we're, so the, oop, Ninja. All right, so this is going to give me the first 7 based on rating, but you're telling me it's going to be in the wrong order, right? Okay.
You should be the right order.
Well, I don't know. We will see. Looks like highest ratings at the bottom.
The ascending.
This is ascending.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
so
should
it's
say
the-
ascending.
That's
to
technically
default.
the lowest 7 rating.
Oh. Yeah. And I said highest.
Yeah.
So we'll say ascending is false.
Maybe will give you an error.
So is it a comma? Ascending is equal to
Calculator.
like that.
Yep.
All right, so that's our ratings. 93 is our highest rated cereal. Oh, all brand. Extra fiber.
Who are these people?
Highest rated. People who eat all brand, they're the ones that are filling out these surveys.
My God.
Is that bad?
These
So
people.
I did use the in largest, but I did go into the path like trying to reorganize, but I ended up using in largest function
Yeah.
from pandas.
Okay. Did you get you the same results?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a different data, but yeah.
Did you get a warning at all though saying like you couldn't do NMARC just because it was like numeric?
I did mine online.
Okay, because like for some reason I kept getting, well, for one, like I couldn't just type in rating. I had to type in rating comma comma, because for
Okay.
some reason it had 2 commas after it. And then I also had to do, like, I tried to like convert my like data types because they came back as all objects, and so like I wasn't able to plot anything, or like I tried n largest and n smallest, and like it was yelling at me because I didn't have numeric values.
Yeah, there is something. I don't know if it's in this data set. I didn't look at it, but there's sometimes you get a NaN, not a number, and I think that can throw off sometimes doing math things or rating, ordering by a numeric value, because you might have a specific datum that doesn't actually hold a value, and then the default is not a number. And I think there's a way to tell pandas to just kind of ignore those and just pretend like that's.
Yeah, I tried removing because I like found on the documentation like how to remove those,
Mhm.
and I tried that, and it didn't change anything. So I was like, okay, I'm guessing I don't have any of those. But then like, for instance, like I tried, so like one of my lines of code, like for calories, for instance, I did like the dot as type string dot as type int,
Mhm.
like trying to convert the object to a string and then to an int, and like it just like yelled at me, like I could not get it to work. Like it was ridiculous.
Do you see how much higher all brand is rated, Ani?
So ridiculous.
I mean, this guy has a 20-point lead on the next closest guy.
And there is still something wrong because right now the sorting is by string sorting, so it's not by the number sorting. Because the
Wasn't
first
this rating?
The first row is wrong. The first row is not a number.
What isn't a number?
There is a 0 index, which is the type of the.
Oh, I see what you're
You
saying.
have to drop in that and convert the number into a numeric. Otherwise, it is sorted by string.
Well, these are still
Yeah, but
numeric order.
Sorting it by rating first, and
This
then just
one,
getting those top
this one
7.
give you correct, but you cannot plot because eventually.
Because this top row doesn't have appropriate data in it.
It's you have to drop it in order to plot.
Yeah, so we could actually just drop row 0.
Yeah.
Or we can even go into our data itself.
Delete it.
Just change it where you get the top 8.
Well, I mean, what I'll do here, since, we don't need that thing, this first row here,
Oh, just like delete the row.
Although if we do that,
Not that way. Not that way. Second.
Yeah.
The string type.
Yeah, this guy. So that guy is,
That's all I want to say.
yeah, that's not a row that we need. There's probably a way you could just ignore row, go from row 1 on. But now this should give us correct values. All right, so there's our, still the pack leader on it, all brand. Extra fiber. Puffed wheat? It's been around for a while, isn't? Yeah. Shredded wheat, 100% bran. Spoon-sized shredded wheat. If you're gonna eat shredded wheat, don't you want the whole big thing? It's like the size of your bowl. Comes in like a Pop-Tart box.
It's just like with Reese's now. They have Reese's things. Like, who would want Reese's?
Like the candy?
Yeah.
So it's like Reese's peanut butter cups, but it's like a flat Reese's
Yeah,
peanut butter
it's
cup?
like they're called Reese's Thins. Like, kind of like the thin Oreos. But like,
Is it so they can just say it only has 30 calories or something like that?
I don't know. But
Is that it?
If you're gonna eat a Reese's, like, you should just, whatever. Like, eat the whole Reese's.
Yeah, what you do with Reese's, you take a spoonful of peanut butter and then you dump Hershey syrup in your mouth. That's how you eat Reese's. Like, I don't want to have to deal with that whole packaging thing. All right, so does this answer that question? Who? Yeah. Just this answers the question of, because we're not supposed to plot yet, are we?
We are. We're supposed to do visualization.
Oh, for this one?
For the next review.
But I did not do it
Oh,
before.
display an appropriate visualization. All right, so for the 7 highest rated series, so now we have the data, right? And we want to display this data somehow. What would be an appropriate way of looking at those series? Bar chart? Okay.
At least,
Huh?
if it's 7, I would just display at least 7 is too much to display.
Okay. You mean a list like this?
I would give a list, yeah.
Just like this? Okay, so you're basically saying instead of using a chart, this is all you did. So the correct answer is that.
Yeah,
So you're calling this a reasonable visualization.
correct.
All right.
For the type of.
Well, let's do a bar chart. So we want to
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah.
practice with those.
I was doing online. I did not have much. It was super slow, and I did not have much time to do.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, we probably can make. What else? We can make the argument for a bar chart. What else can we make the argument for? What other charts would be acceptable? If we go back to our.
I was originally thinking a pie chart, but that wouldn't work because you have to have it equal 100% and each thing is
Yeah.
out of 100%.
Right. So pie charts would look good for this to give you kind of what piece of the pie, but the data itself isn't compatible with what we're trying to accomplish. So,
But that is not really 100%. It's not added together.
well, no, that's why she's saying that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would not be appropriate because of the nature of, yeah. So,
I mean, you could do scatter plot for 100%.
scatter plot is better for one of the later questions, right? Okay, so we're going to do a bar chart here. So let's get to our sample code for bar charts. I think it's the bar chart right there. We already have the thing we want to plot. All right, so here I'm just going to steal a bunch of this stuff. We're not going to need Seaboard. We are going to need those guys. I probably have half of them already. I have 2 of them already. So there's that. All right, and then we don't need Seaborn. That was because they were using the Titanic data. So for those of you that were getting sick of the Titanic data, it's convenient for examples because Seaborn comes with it.
I think you can use that for visualization style.
What?
It's
Oh, for Seaborn, you can update your charts. That's true. That's true.
just using the style from that.
This guy right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're not going to do that.
There's a line called using style.
Yeah,
blah,
this.
blah,
Yeah, we don't need that. So we're going to steal. Oh, he actually does his plot with that too.
Counter plot also use that.
Yeah.
Well, you can also use data frame dot plot. It's the same.
We're going to put it in there to keep it simple. And then we'll just grab those. So we have our we're going to call this guy top 7 is equal to rating.head 7. So that's the exact data we want to plot, right? And then we'll go ahead and paste this in there. All right, so we'll set our Seaborn style to white grid, whatever that is. We'll set our title to highest rated serials. And then the data is going to come from top 7. Like that. And then we'll save it, whatever.
So like in this scenario, how would you, so like with line printing, how are you telling, because I was using pandas or trying to use pandas, or no, just plot, I was trying to use plot. So like, how does it know what the y-axis?
It doesn't at this point. Yeah. So let's see what this gives us.
Yeah, what classes?
Oh, rating.
And you also need to convert the index.
But would x be rating, or, because wouldn't you want x to be the series?
Well, it depends. Are we doing a horizontal or a vertical?
I would think,
I'm doing horizontal because the man is too long.
Okay. So what did you have your x set at?
Just the y equals to man. But actually it will be wrong. You need to specify the index. You set the index to man.
Oh, for my count plot?
Data. Top 7 dot set index to man. Otherwise it will plot in the
Oh, this guy here. Top 7 dot set index.
yeah, set underscore index.
So this will set name as the index rather than the 0, 1, 2, 3, that stuff.
Otherwise it will always plot in the index with the value.
And it's named like that?
Yeah, you say top 7 equals to top 7 dot 7. Yeah.
So this gives me a new version of that data frame with the index replaced, storing it in top 7. We'll come down here and we're going to print out there. So your Y is name,
Then it will plot in the horizontal.
but it's not going to plot. Oh, but this is going to, don't we just want to plot rating?
Yeah, then you can say x equals to rating.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're just going to get
No,
a,
you only need to set
oh, because the name is already the index.
yeah. So you only need to set the x is the rating, then
so now
you
we're vertical.
This will,
Rating is on this side.
rating will be on the Y, which is up,
X
Yeah,
equals
so
to
vertical.
rating.
and names are going to be along the bottom.
I think x should be equal to rating.
Well, I mean, we could do a vertical.
Well, let's see what this looks like, and we'll decide whether it's too crowded. How about that?
Yeah,
Comment even says plots vertical.
probably goes correct.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful.
It's fine. It's perfect.
What is that?
Import Seaborn as.
It doesn't have keyboard.
I installed.
You did, so.
I just made nothing work.
I kind of got a similar error to this, but it wasn't for Seaborn, it was for,
Failed when implode specified module. Here, let me just do a quick search on this, then we'll take a break and we'll finish debugging it when we come back. Just see if something's obvious here.
What you say? Keep install Seaborn?
Oh yeah, it wants us to get a wheel for Seaborn. It wants us to uninstall the local Seaborn.
Or you can
Just use matplotlib and move on with life.
You can use in rating dot
Yeah.
plot.
Okay.
Pandas also has the
Well, so
plot too.
let's take a break and then we'll come back and we'll redo it with matplotlib. But we have our data to visualize, so we'll take 10 minutes.